Um, so we've been ministering on this particular passage of scripture in the 14th chapter of Enoch because it relates to the activity of what the government and many are calling UFO sightings or the strange orbs in the sky. So basically, as I read, let me explain what the book of Enoch is exposing. The Nephilim, um, which is the progeny of watcher angels mating with women. Um, you know what, Shalek Ben Yehuda, as I talk on this topic, I remember some years ago when I first began to study the subject of deliverance, an old pastor, I was watching him online, and he had the nerve to say that the watcher angels did not, he was emphatic, did not engage in sexual intercourse with women, that was all a lie, and that demons did not come from this relationship. And I was young. Go back to take you back. This was like 2004. No, excuse me, 1984, 85. I was young in the ministry, and even though he said what he said, I had to do my own research because I witnessed some strangeness. Um, all of y'all have a ministry of deliverance. And the ministry of deliverance is not just casting demons out, but exposing them and their origins and what's happening as it relates to humanity. This is the purpose that I will say very strong. You can't play around with what many call church or spirituality. It is dangerous. It is very dangerous. I wish that this wasn't my focus. I would rather deal with something totally different that's not controversial, but as it relates to what's happening, Rabbi Makeda, people are looking for answers. They want to know what's going on. Is that my munchie right there? Yeah, I see him. He hear my voice. But people are wondering, Shalek Ben Yehuda, what's going on? They are wondering, what is this all about? And from my research and from studying, I'm going back to, let's start before I became born again. Maybe I better not, I'm not going to say everything right now, but I remember in the 70s when this particular movie was made by Steven Spielberg. How many of you have heard of Steven Spielberg? Y'all have heard of him? He just made another video, another movie, and this movie is bone shaking. It is it is beyond strange. It is fearful. If you don't know who you are in Messiah, if you don't recognize the supernatural, the demonic realm, if you don't understand that, this movie that he just made is is mind blowing. And Aria, thank you. It's called Disclosure Day. It's coming, I think, in June. Um, Disclosure Day. It's this young lady was given a news report. She was live on TV, and all of a sudden, something possessed her and took her over. And I just sat back and started like, they telling on themselves now, because unfortunately, the church, the so-called church, has been commissioned to deal with this topic, and they refuse to deal with this topic. Now, me personally, when the Ruach HaKodesh began to deal with me about talking about this, at first I really didn't want to deal with this. I honestly didn't want to deal with this. But there are people looking for answers. Not only are they looking for answers, but they're being, most people today are being confronted with this reality as it relates to what's going on. That's just like I just mentioned to you. They killed this young man for speaking out on this and giving, providing information. They killed him. He, before they killed him, he went on and said, "I'm not suicidal. I am not suicidal. If I go missing, or if I wind up dead, know that I didn't do it." And they did it. They killed him. And this is the hour that we're living in. The United States government, as well as Britain, France, and some other nations, are in cahoots with this. How can I call them? They're not from Earth. They're not from humanity. They are the progeny of Nephilim. They are showing up via lights in the sky, spacecraft. They are capturing people, doing all types of experiments, and this is a known fact. And so the question is, why? How come even the so-called prophetic realm, the prophets, why are they afraid on exposing this? And yet they want to excite people. You're gonna get a house, you're gonna get a car, you're gonna get money. And blah, 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 blah. Okay. I believe the Most High wants to bless us with those things, but what about what's affecting people? We're supposed to have the answers. And I'm telling y'all, I'm not going to be here long tonight. So, what is the response? These are the so-called UFOs, the so-called aliens, are the Nephilims coming back, entering through our atmosphere via portals of darkness. I remember the late Pastor Stephen Darby did a message on exposing the portals of darkness. Teachings like that, that's not popular, but people need to know this is what's happening. And in all honest, how do you fight it? Some of you are dealing with strangeness in your homes, in your dreams. Your families are discombobulated. And the question is, how do you handle it? What do you do? So my job as I teach this is to give you some answers. Right? This is why they did not want the book of Enoch, books like the book of Shalek Kabin. You told me about the this other book, Jasher. These are books that they took out. The Council of Nicaea, 325, April 325 in Western Nicaea in Turkey. They took these books out because they did not want the people to understand the warfare that is being waged against them. In fact, they wanted the people to trust more so into the church than in a personal relationship with Yahuwah and learning through Yahuwah how to fight these demonic beings. Spiritual warfare cannot be achieved in terms of victory if you don't understand, number one, who you are, and number two, who they are. The scriptures, as it relates to Enoch, deals with the understanding and the revealing of these ancient fallen angels, the vision of fallen angels. Let me run through this real quick so you'll understand. When I mention the watchers, you'll know what I'm talking about. There are 5 classes or division of angels, 5 divisions. You know, and at some point, we're going to do a teaching and break down each division in its entirety by the grace of the Most High, so that you'll understand. But you have the cherubim, and the seraphim. Now, let me stop. Put a pause right here. Hashatan or Hillel. All right. Now King James erroneously calls him Lucifer. Lucifer is not his name. Well, Rabbi, the King James, I don't care what the King James says. That's wrong. That's wrong. And I've explained this before, not to step on nobody's toes, but this got to be taught that there were 6 different scrolls or manuscripts. The oldest is the Corman Cave, Dead Sea Scrolls. Number 2 is the Septuagint, and you go on to the Peshitta, the Masoretic Hebrew text, and different scrolls. But then you begin to see a difference and a change. The real name of Yahuwah was erased, replaced with this name called Jehovah. And it's false. It's false. Okay. The replacement of these different names point to something that's not in the scripture. So getting back to the classes of angels, these angels they have been called in dealing with Yah's people, but there are several. There's a group. Well, let's deal with Hashitan. His biblical name is Hillel. Now, King James replaced the name Hillel with the name Lucifer. And when, it's difficult to try to teach people that that's not his biblical Hebraic name. Lucifer, in its fact, is a Latinized name, and it means illuminated one. Lucifer was the name of a bishop in the 4th century. Lucifer was the name of a bishop. In other words, Lucifer was a man, a human being who was at war, in a severe disagreement with the Roman Catholic papacy. And because the Roman papacy had grown enough to their writings influence people, a translator of the Latin Vulgate, when he was translating Isaiah 4, I believe it's Isaiah 14, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Hillel. Instead of them using the closest translation to Hillel, he could have used illuminated one, illuminator. But instead, they replace how art thou fallen from heaven, O Hillel. They replaced in its place the name of a 4th century bishop, and his name is Lucifer. Lucifer was the name of a 4th century bishop. Now, I encourage you to go do your own study and research. Just don't take my word, all right? Because I don't want you to be looking at me like, what is he talking about? Well, I'm telling you, because a lot of things were replaced and scrubbed and wiped out as it relates to the King James Version. This is why I emphatically teach and encourage you to teach and study the Sefer translation, because you will see what this Roman Catholic institution attempted to do. And it's really mind-blowing. But I'm so glad that my relationship in Messiah was solidified long before I came into this theological revelation. and understanding how names were replaced. For example, most in the church, first of all, let's go back from it. Yahusha did not die, was buried, and raised again. He did not shed his blood for a church. The word church is Latin as well as Greek, meaning Mother Circe, which they get the word Kirke. And it means in the Greek, goddess of spirituality. Okay. And so when that this is where the name JC come from. JC is, and I'm not going to say the name, but y'all know what I'm talking about. JC means earth pig. Earth pig. Just think about that. They had the nerve to replace the name of Yahusha with this pagan name. But I'm so glad that didn't stop me and you from becoming born again. But it's worthy to note where a lot of the confusion is coming from. And a lot of people are walking away from Messiah because they just don't have a grounding in their spirit. So as we look into our studies relating to what did Yahusha die for, the term church, they're trying to replace the word assembly, because this is what we are. We are called his assembly, his holy assembly. And when you read in these newer versions, you won't see the word assembly. You'll see the false word church. Now, some people may not never come into this revelation. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be one with the Father. So I'm careful in how I teach this, because I don't want to be a stumbling block. But according to some of my Israelite brethren, when they try to come at me, I have to be wise and armed with truth to not so much as beat them down, but rebuke them. All right. So as we look at the supernatural, as we look at what's happening, I've shared this with y'all many times, Rabbi Makeda and Shalek and Kai Ben Yehuda. There have been strange sightings in the night sky. I'm so glad that I know where they're from. They're not of Yah. And we all have been taught how to pray and rebuking them and casting them down. There are several good Bible teachers that teach on this topic, such as L.A. Marzulli. I encourage you to look on his YouTube page as he deals with the topic UFOs. His famous statement is, UFOs, they're burgeoning and they're not going nowhere. And he deals with them as it relates to the Nephilim. This, again, is a topic that a lot of people don't want to listen. But they're dealing with strange sightings. They're dealing with visitation. So, people like myself have been called to teach you what to do if one of these sightings or one of these phenomena shows up in your house, understand you have the power and the authority through Yahusha to cast them out, rebuke them, defeat them. Spiritual warfare deals with this particular topic. It is a reality that we are faced with in this hour. This is why I can't play with church folk. I can't, I refuse to. I refuse to. I refuse to engage in silly debates. If you are open to strange warfare, go right ahead. But we have the power and the authority. Well, now let's step back for a minute. Let's ask the question. What are UFOs? Now, it stands for unidentified flying objects. Well, what are they? What are they? Well, I could tell you, quite frankly, they're not green men or orange women from different solar systems. They are number one, if you're taking those, matter of fact, you can go back and listen to this teaching online on our YouTube channel. They are interdimensional beings. In other words, to put it more frankly, they are what we consider devils, demons. Now, permit me to deal with this, and then I'm gonna get into Enoch, the 14th chapter. Demons, devils, they are not angels. I need Rabbi Makeda, have you heard people online and different they compare UFOs with fallen angels? Have you heard this? This is why I have to be clear in terms of who they are, where they're from, and what they're not. Uriah, Yahoo, Yashael, shalom to you. Shalom to you, sir. Shalom to you. Another good Bible teacher that I respect. That's on here putting that work in. So what are these so-called UFOs or these what some call spacemen? Well, they're not from outer space. They're not from different planets. They are interdimensional beings. In other words, they are the progeny of the watcher angels, as we studied in Enoch, the watcher angels engaging in sexual activity with the daughters of men. And as a result, they brought forth the Nephilim, the children of the watchers. And so Yahuwah said, I'm going to destroy them. Now, they were born, listen, y'all, I mean, we're going to go through the scriptures, but when you go into Enoch and Jasher, as well as Genesis 6 deals with this, but Enoch gets into this more in depth. Some of these Nephilims, the watchers that impregnated women, these babies they was born natural size, but they were not natural in genetic. They were half human, half angelic. And as they grew, some of them, according to Enoch in some of the passages of these scriptures, Some of them grew, what, 3,000 cubics? In other words, you had some beings 45 feet tall. Now, to you that says, Rabbi, you are kooky, you are crazy. I don't believe that. You ain't gotta believe me. Did y'all know the government and other agencies have found the bones and the skull of some of these Nephilims that walked the earth and died because Messiah sent judgment to them? Found them all in Mexico and South America and around. So and the skulls they were 45 feet tall. They were born natural, natural size, but they just grew. Okay, that's some scary stuff, y'all. That's scary. That we had that they see. I'm going to say something. It's not a problem that went away. I don't talk about my military experience and all of that and what I know. I don't like to do a lot of talking, but I'm gonna share this portion. In 2005, a Marine unit went missing in Afghanistan. Um, this Marine unit, Kandahar, Afghanistan. This patrol unit went missing. So the United States government sent a patrol out to look for this missing Marine unit. And they came across in this cave, Kandahar cave, this giant, 13 feet tall, pale skin, covered in red hair. And they noted he has 6 toes and 6 fingers. Not my story, but this is what was reported. And he came out of this cave with a spear and he stabbed one of the soldiers, picked him up, and began to eat him. The rest of the platoon began to fire on this giant, hitting him in his lower body cavity. And as the bullets hit, the wounds will heal right up. So the patrol leader shouted, shoot him in the head. So they aimed their guns and began to fire at his head, and that's what took him down and killed him. Beloved, they sent another unit, put him on the plaques, airlifted him, put him aboard a C-130 military plane, and flew him to Wrights-Patterson Air Force Base. Wrights-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. This is the same Air Force Base that when this alleged UFO ship crashed in 1947, the occupants of that craft, as well as the craft itself, they shipped it to Wrights-Patterson Air Force Base. This Air Force Base does a lot of research and that sort of thing. So going back to this, not only in Afghanistan, there are giant sightings, even in Iraq. In fact, time will not permit me. This is one of the reasons why they went to war in Iraq. Everybody believe, oh, we want to take down Saddam Hussein. That's not the truth, y'all. The U.S. government knows what's over in Iraq and in Afghanistan. All right? This is an issue. Not so much as for us, but exposing why they're interested in getting these giants, killing them, and bringing them back to America. Particularly Wrights-Patterson Air Force Base. I know Arya Binyar knows this. But the main thing, even what I was told, is America is at work attempting to bring forth and raise up satanic super soldiers. I'm going to say that one more time. America, the government of America, is interested in raising up satanic super soldiers. So there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And so this is one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of demonic activity even in our skies. Going back to 1947, who was the president? Who was the president of America in 1940? Was it? No, it wasn't Woodrow Wilson. Who was the president? Oh yeah, I know you know this. Dwight, thank you, sir. Dwight Eisenhower. And oh, by the way, did you know Dwight Eisenhower is half white, half black? That's another subject for another time when I deal with the six black presidents that the United States had. Dwight Eisenhower was one of them. But anyway, Dwight Eisenhower made a deal with these fallen angels. All right. Saying, give us your technology, you can abduct some of our people. This is why this stuff has been going on. All right. Oh, it's a lot to discuss and teach. But 2005 is where this Kandahar giant of Kandahar, Afghanistan, was killed and taken. It's a whole. See, it's easy to stick your head in the sand and say none of this is true. But yet, I do a lot of studying. I have to, in order to be proficient in my teaching and teaching Yah's word. I have to be able to deal with the topics that relates to this. And when you look at the book of Enoch, as we're going to see, Enoch deals with this. So let's begin Enoch chapter 14, verse 1. This is the Sefer of the words of righteousness and of the reproof of the watchers. The watchers are that sect of angels. Now, again, you have the cherubim, the seraphim, you have the archangels, you have the Zoe angels. The Zoe means the angels that minister praise and worship to the throne. And the fifth division is the watchers. This is what we're dealing with right here in Enoch, the watcher angels. Enoch 14:1, this is the Sefer of the words of righteousness and the reproof of the watchers who are from eternity, according to that which he who is holy and great commanded in the vision. I perceived in my dream that I was now speaking with a tongue of flesh and with my breath, which El Elohim have put into the mouth of men, that they might converse with it and understand with the heart, as he has created and given to men the power of comprehending the word of understanding, so has he created and given to me the power of reproving the watchers, the offspring of heaven. In other words, Enoch was ordained and anointed to rebuke the watchers. I need to stop and just deal with this. You got to be careful allowing arrogance into convincing you that you have power to rebuke angels. There's a difference between angels and demons. We've been commissioned and called by Yahusha to cast out demons. What are demons then? If they're not angels, they're the disembodied spirits of Nephilims. So then, how do you handle warfare as it relates to the fallen angels? Well, Ephesians, the 6th chapter, instructs us, be strong in Elohim, the powers might put on the whole armor. And it deals with the head of salvation, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, sword of the spirit, your loins girded about with truth, feet shod with the basora of peace. And it basically deals with basic armor that we are to wear when confronting and being confronted with fallen angels. Other than this armor, you and I have no right, you have no right, you have no authority to confront angels, fallen angels. Okay, remember, even in the scriptures where it talks about Michael confronting this particular angel, he was wrestling with Hashatan over the body of Moshe. And he specifically just said, hey, Yahuwah rebukes you. I'm coming in the name of Yahuwah. He did not disrespect Hillel's position. He had to come in the name of Yahuwah by his authority and rebuke him. I don't know why church folk, I'll put it to you that way, because those of us that are in the Hebraic awakening and understanding, we know you don't disrespect angels. I don't care if they're fallen angels. You and I are not to disrespect them. They are from heaven. You and I have no right or authority. Now, unless the Most High equips you and tells you, yeah, rebuke this particular, and most, listen, the watcher angels, no angel is nothing to play with. We are commanded to cast demons out, yes, but demons are not angels. They're the disembodied spirits of Nephilims who once had a body and roamed this earth. Again, we talked about the watcher and their offspring. Some of them, can you imagine seeing one of these beings 45, 50 feet tall? Now, when I've read this and I've read it through other books and studied this in the scriptures, I'm like, no, that can't be. But they found remains, South America, all they found these skulls. And of course the government, they're trying to wash this stuff off of the internet. But this is facts. This is facts. This horrific creation was upon the earth. I remember studying where these group of scientists, they were studying DNA, and one of them said, well, there are groups of DNA that belong. They said DNA A, DNA B, DNA C, DNA D. But then they said there's a fifth group, and this DNA don't belong. It's not earthly. It shouldn't be here, basically. And when I read that, I was like, what? They said this DNA is not earthly. And then they said where they found this DNA. Over there, the Bering Strait, over there, that gateway to Russia. This is where they found this basically Nephilim DNA. And I was like, wow. The Nephilim, when they had physical bodies, they're finding their skeletons, their skulls, all over South America and those regions. So it's interesting. It's interesting, and as we read, let's read. According to that which he who is holy and great commanded in the visions, I perceived in my dream that I was now speaking with a tongue of flesh. We read that already. And with my breath, which Elohim has put in the mouth of men, that they might converse with it and understand with the heart, as he has created and given to men the power of comprehending the word of understanding, so has he created and given to me the power of reproving the watchers. In other words, he recognized Yah has called me to rebuke the watchers, the offspring of heaven. Who are the watchers today? Well, beloved, if you're seeing lights in the sky, those are the Nephilim, the watchers. They see what happened is mankind opened the door to the occult, to Satanism. And as a result, fallen angelic knowledge have been given to them. And this is how they have opened portals for these entities and their ships, their craft, to come in and back and forth. So we recognize that Nephilims, that what they call the aliens, are actually Nephilim. The Nephilim, plain and simple, Nephilim. And the reports that I read and the testimonies and the people, the ladies the women who testified that had been abducted and things done to them, I'm saying yes, because you opened the door to these satanic beings and permitted them to do things to you because you do not serve the Most High Yah. Those of us that are servants of Most High keep his. Why do y'all think? Listen, this is why we are commanded to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. Because if you don't keep no laws, no statutes, no commandments of the Most High, you are open to an unholy law, and you will be disturbed, disrupted, possessed, and harassed unto the grave. I have a testimony that goes back before I became born again. As a little boy, growing up in my grandparents' house. See, my grandfather was a warlock. My grandmother was a witch. And they tapped into what is some type of African voodoo practice. I forgot what it's called. Not Santeria. Santeria is with the Spanish practice. I can't think. It was a type of voodoo that they tapped in. And because all of us was born with gifts, these entities, these spirits, harassed us. And I praise the Most High that when he called me into salvation and taught me how to deal with generational curses, how to rebuke them, how to dethrone them, dispatch them, get them out of here. And it goes into having a prayer life. So being that I came from generational curses, I have to understand and know how to handle when those curses try to come in through my dream or whatever. I have authority over them in Yahushua's name. And most people in the church, in these worship centers, don't have a clue how to fight these powers. They just say, "Oh, I say in the name of Jesus," and them devils look at you and say, "Okay, and what?" You have to understand you are called and have been anointed, and you have an assignment that when these things come in to try attack you, your family, or other people, that they can call on you to pray and to bring them in a place of the ministry that we're called to. Besides, the reason why we're called to keep the law, statutes, and commandments is because we have a deliverance ministry. We are called to the ministry of deliverance. I'm going to say that one more time. We're called to the ministry of deliverance. I often talk about, as a little boy, my stupid brother, because when we moved up to West Oak Lane, instead of taking us to a Baptist church or non-denominational, my family joined the Roman Catholic Church right on 7400 Lincoln Pike, St. Athanasius Roman Catholic Church. Also, we went to school. I got kicked out of first grade. Catholic school. They didn't want me. They said I was crazy, but I'm crazy because I defended myself. This young boy, I don't know what he did, but I put hands on him. Man. I got in trouble for it. But that place, I can talk about. I'll talk about that another time. But we was brought up in the Catholic Church, and of course, Easter. Every Easter, this was a tradition. We would go to Mass. Oh, I used to hate it. Oh my God. The priest would do half the Mass in Latin. I didn't know no Latin. I'm sitting there, and of course, time to pray, we each pew had a pad in the front, and it said when it was time to pray, we get on our knees and then sit back down and then get on our knees again, and I was like, man, the mass was about an hour long that we got out of there. We would go home and change out of our church clothes and put on some other clothes. And my brother would take me to the movie on Cheltenham Avenue, the Earl Inn, or sometimes to Broad Alley. At the movie theater at Broad Alley was called the Esquire. The Esquire was at Broad Alley. The Earl Inn was on Cheltenham Avenue. So, and I'm saying this for a reason. This particular time, this movie came out called Beyond the Door, a movie about demon possession. If that wasn't bad, then he took me to see The Exorcist. Let me tell y'all something now. Let me tell you something. From looking at those movies, it appeared to me that I'm not saying I believe this, but as it became to God, I didn't know what to believe, but the priests kept getting beat up by the devil. The priests had no power. All that stuff they were saying and doing, according to the movies, it wouldn't work for the devil, right? Here's why I'm saying that. So when I got born again and got saved, and then the Most High called me into the ministry, right? And then he said, "Oh, I didn't call you just to preach and teach. I'm calling you to cast the devil out." I was like, "Hold, time out, time out. Nah, I can't go with that. No, you ain't calling me to cast no devil out." And it was like me and Elohim got into an argument. I'm like, your priest can't beat the devil, and you expect me to go up? And it was like, almost I was like, fool, that was a movie you were looking at. That was a movie. If I anoint you and teach you, you're going to have success. And so that's what it was. When I started moving in the area of deliverance, Yah taught me how to cast devils out. It was no book. I've read some books that was like, yo, I had to throw this in the trash. There's a couple of books. I'm not going to even mention them. Especially the one that just disgusting. Matter of fact, I gotta mention this one because this one was terrible. Have y'all ever heard of a book called Pigs in the Parlor? Have y'all heard of that book? Man, please, you can. I couldn't read that whole book. I was like, man, get out of here. No, and that's why I stayed away from going in deliverance ministry, because I'm like, reading that book and seeing the movies, seeing your priest getting beat up. No. And most I had to teach me said, fool, that's not me. If I call you, I call you. I'm going to strengthen you, and I'm going to anoint you, and I'm going to teach you. And he did. And I don't go looking for demon-possessed people. But if it's for me to deal with somebody, one of the things I was taught by the Most High, they need to be counseled that they need to repent of their sins and renounce any ancestral curses or any practice of religions or whatever. You cannot do what you want to do and expect Almighty to deliver you. I will not waste my time with anybody that don't want to live right. You dealing with demon possession, but you don't want to repent. You don't want to walk in freedom. You keep your demons. Plain and simple. That's where I'm at, y'all. You want to be free? You want to live right? Then you can call Shalek and Kai Ben Yehuda, and I can support him and help him cast your devils out. Notice I said Shalek and Kai Ben Yehuda. I'll help him. But all jokes aside, we are all equipped and anointed to cast demons out. And if you want to continue to practice witchcraft, you want to get involved with demonic stuff, you're not getting delivered. And you're not going to waste my time. Plain and simple. All right, let me close this out. Wow. By the grace of the Most High, we'll be back at 12 midnight for midnight oil prayer. So Enoch said he was given the power of reproving or rebuking the watchers, the offspring of heaven. The watchers are called the offspring of heaven. I have written your petition, and in my vision it has been shown me that your requests will not be granted you, as long as the world endures. Judgment has been passed upon you. Your request will not be granted you. This is what Yah is saying about the watchers. Your request, you're not getting forgiven. So then, we now understand why the watchers and their offspring are crazily manifested. We see them, I have pictures in my phone of lights that I've caught flying in the night sky. I think I've sent it to Shalak Kami Huda and to Rabbi Makeda. This stuff is deep, but this is what's going on, right? And in verse 4, this is what he says to these watchers. From this time forward, never shall you ascend into heaven. He's talking about the abode where Elohim is, Elohim's throne. They are not allowed ever again to go to Elohim's throne, but they fly in our night sky in this level. All right. From this time forward, never shall you ascend into heaven. He has said that on the earth he will bind you. You see that right there? On the earth he will bind you, as long as the world endures. But before these things you shall behold the destruction of your beloved son. This is where the fallen angels, the watchers, saw their seed get destroyed. This is why demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. This is why they possess folk. He says, you shall not possess them, but they shall fall before you by the sword. Neither shall you entreat for them, not for yourselves, but you shall weep and supplicate in silence the words of the Sefer which I wrote. Verse 8, a vision thus appeared to me. Behold, in that vision, clouds and a mist invited me. Agitated stars and flashes of lightning impelled and pressed me forwards, while winds in the visions assisted my flight, accelerating my progress. He was flying with the assistance of angels. I shared with you that I had that experience. I had that experience before. They elevated me aloft to heaven. I proceeded until I arrived at a wall built with stones of crystal. A tongue of fire surrounded it, which began to strike me with terror. Into this vibrating flame I entered and drew nigh into a spacious habitation built also with stones of crystal. Its walls, too, as well as pavement, were formed with stones of crystal, and crystal likewise was the ground. Its roof had the appearance of agitated stars and flashes of lightning, and among them were cherubim of fire, and their heaven was water. A flame burned around its walls, and its portal blazed with fire. When I entered into this dwelling, it was hot as fire and cold as ice. No trace of the light or of life was there. Terror overwhelmed me, and a fearful shaking seized me. Yeah, I agree. Enoch was like, whoa. Violently agitated and trembling, I fell upon my face. In the vision, I looked, And behold, there was another habitation more spacious, every entrance to which was open before me, erected in a vibrating flame. So greatly did it excel in all points, in glory, in magnificence, and in magnitude, that it is impossible to describe to you either in the splendor or the extent of it. Its floor was on fire. Above were lightnings and agitated stars, while its roof exhibited a blazing fire. Attentively I surveyed it and saw that it contained an exalted throne. Wow. The appearance of which was like that of frost, while its circumference resembled the orb of the brilliant sun. And there was a voice of the cherubim from underneath this mighty throne, rivers of flaming fire issue. He's having a visitation from Elohim. He's at his throne. He's describing it. And this is awesome, yo. Verse 20, to look upon it was impossible. He said to look upon it was impossible. Verse 21, one great in glory sat upon it. Oh, he's seeing Elohim. He said, one great in glory sat upon it. Listen to this, verse 22, whose robe was brighter than the sun and whiter than snow. Verse 23, no angel was capable of penetrating to view the face of him, the glorious and the effulgent, nor could any mortal behold him. A fire was flaming around him. A fire also of great extent continued to rise up before him, so that not one of those who surrounded him was capable of approaching him. Among the myriads of myriads who were before him, to him holy consolation was needless. Yet did not the sanctified who were near him depart far from him, either by night or by day, or were they removed from him. I also was so far advanced with a veil on my face and trembling. Then Yahuwah with his own mouth called me, saying, approach hither. Can you imagine that? Describing Yahuwah, that he says to Enoch, approach hither. Enoch, at my holy word. And he raised me up, making me draw near, even to the entrance. My eye was directed to the ground. We're going to stop right there. We praise the Most High. We praise the Most High. The book of Enoch deals with this visitation and the manifestation, the prophet Enoch, as he was in the presence, in the very face of Elohim. And of course, we're going to get into Joshua and these other books. This is why, y'all, they didn't leave these books in the King James. They didn't. They took them out because they don't want you to understand that having a real relationship is possible. And what that was like. What did Enoch see? And it described the Most High. It described him perfectly. And we are called. You and I are called. Not so much as these people who are calling themselves prophets, and maybe they are prophets, but certainly they're not speaking on behalf of the Most High because of this foolishness. I was just watching online today of one person attacking another prophet. And as I'm listening to him trying to tear this prophet down, I'm looking at him saying, what about your life? I'm not called to tear nobody down. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Now, when it comes to exposing witches and warlocks, if Yah tells me to expose, I'm going to do it. But I'm not going away from teaching his word, because this is what he has called us all in this hour to do, is to teach his word, to understand that he is calling us into relationship. And the book of Enoch deals with a tangible, real encounter with the Most High. And that's what we're called to have, our relationship, an encounter with the Most High. I'm going to stop right here, and then I'm going to pray. and I want to invite you, if you're led to sow a seed and be a blessing to this ministry, our cash app is $ Yosef Yisrael number 7, $ Yosef Yisrael number 7, $ Yosef Yisrael number 7. By the grace of the Most High, we'll be back midnight for a moment of prayer, which we call midnight oil. Father, in Yahushua's name, as we close out this session, we ask that you will move by your spirit in the lives of your people. You know their prayer requests, each and every last one. You know Shalek Akai Ben Yehuda's prayer request. You know my prayer request. You know Ariya Ben Yah prayer request. You know Rabbi Abigail and Saida's prayer request. You know Danielle's prayer request. Every last one of us, Father, you hear and you see. Move by your spirit. Have your way. Have your way. Lead us and guide us in your word. May your word come alive in us. In Yahushua's mighty name we pray. Amen, amen, amen. We end this now saying Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.